Some are wondering what is going on today, December 28, 2019, Saturday. To those of you who have kept up with my channel over the years, you know of my Cobalt and Corolla and the experiences I've had with them. So, going back to late 2007, I did not think much of Hyundai and saw them as a throwaway brand. I did not want a throwaway car, so I happily paid the extra $6,000 for the 2008 Cobalt thinking it was going to be a better car. Instead, my dealing with the Cobalt has taught me two things. Number one, do not think you're safe because you bought a new car. Number two, it was the Cobalt that forced me to realize that these newer GMs are not the GMs I grew up with. It was the Cobalt that broke me of my being a fanboy, and that is largely why my driveway looks the way it does today. I would have never thought 13 years ago that there would be Dodges and Hyundais and even a Subaru on my driveway. So, my Cobalt did not have the quality I thought it would have, and I was left feeling like I should have just bought a frickin' Hyundai. Now we fast forward to the tail end of 2015 when my certified pre-owned 2010 Corolla with only 73,000 miles on it came to the scene. Now, at that point, I knew Hyundai had improved vastly, but I thought they could not be better than Toyota. I see plenty of 20-year-old Toyotas everywhere, and the Corolla is a prestigious name and model. So, I happily paid for that used Toyota, what would have gotten me a brand new Hyundai. But again, I wanted something that would last, and while I was aware of how much Hyundai had improved even at that point in time, I still thought I was in the right by going with Toyota, even if it meant settling for used. Well, if you watched my video, the Corolla is gone in my plans for the 3500, March 23rd, 2019, my first video for the tube for 2019. You'll already then know what the deal is with the Corolla and why it's gone, so I'm not going to take any time reiterating here. I'll leave the link in the description to that video. In the end, much like my Cobalt, I was left feeling like, I just should have bought a frickin' Hyundai. So, you want to guess what I did? Well, I'll tell you what I did. I bought the frickin' Hyundai. While today is December 28, 2019, Saturday, I made the deal and brought it home Friday, December 20th. My truck was at the dealer that day, and the camera was in it. When I finally got the camera, it was misbehaving again. Combine that with the crazy life I live and the simple fact that daylight ends early this time of year, I just couldn't film it until today. So hopefully that clarifies why it took so long to get this on the tube. So with that out of the way, yep, it's a frickin' 2019 Hyundai Sonata SE. I very specifically wanted the SE trim, and I'll explain why in a minute. And no, I did not get rid of the Ram. In fact, I got this car to protect and preserve the Ram. But before I dig into this car and what caused me to pull the trigger on the purchasing of this car, let me start with, and if I haven't said so already, thank you Toyota for a bad job, not well done. Yes, the having to purchase this car when what I really wanted to do was save up for my own place so I can get on with my life already is part and parcel to the repercussions I'm still feeling from that car. I am at least grateful I was able to afford to make that mistake so someone less fortunate than me didn't have to. So, end of rant on that, and with that out of the way, here is my brand new 2019 Hyundai Sonata SE in Scarlet Red. What? The Suburbanator bought a red car? Yeah, well, it's not that fire engine red that people would get a Ferrari or a Corvette in. I would never buy that red. This Scarlet Red is a very reactive color indeed. In direct sunlight, it becomes like a ruby red. But on a cloudy day or at dawn and dusk, it becomes more of a burgundy. I wish it could have been more of a darker burgundy like the medium red that the Saturn S series used. But hey, this red will do, and it is interesting for sure. I did not go charcoal gray, as that is already the color of my truck. As for blue, well, I feel I should maybe take a break from blue cars. After all, my Cobalt and Corolla was blue. The one last thing I want to show for the exterior of the car is the wheels. What? No steel wheels? Yeah, well, alloys are the only option even for the lowest trim of the Sonata. Now, mind you, the lower end of the vehicle, the smaller the diameter. These wheels are 16-inch split 5-spoke wheel design. It is wrapped up in a 205/65 R16 Kumo Solus. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. But the thing you know about the Kumo Solus, it's a vastly mediocre tire, and as soon as my finances permit it, I am throwing these tires out and putting some nice Michelins on it. What I do like about this size is that it has the taller sidewall. That's going to better protect the rim and absorb the shock of potholes. As for snow tires, no, you can't use the 15-inch steel wheel off of an Elantra. I know this because I literally tried. The night I took the car home, one of the first things I did was put this car side by side with my brother's 2019 Elantra, took off one front wheel from each. Now, when testing grade clearance, always do the front wheel as the rotor is always bigger on the front. The 15-inch steel Elantra wheel will not go on as the brakes are too big. You need a minimum of 16-inch wheels for the Sonata. This Sonata is a 7th generation. There were 16-inch wheels made by Hyundai that was used until halfway through the 6th generation Sonata, but I just don't know enough about Hyundai Sonatas to know what might have changed for the 7th generation body and chassis wise and what kind of backward compatibility it might have. I don't want to risk wasting money finding out. If you go to a website like Tire Rack, they do sell a steel wheel for this car that is hub-centric like an OEM wheel. And that's an important thing for safety reasons. But you know what? I'm going to make that its own video, and I'll better elaborate on that when I'm making that video. So, that's really all I got to say for the wheels. Now for the heart of the vehicle and why I went with the Sonata and specifically the SE trim and why this year. What you're looking at is what Hyundai calls the Theta 2 engine. This one is a 2.4 liter GDI. I believe this one is the G4KJ, but don't hold me to that. If any of you viewers are Hyundai Kia experts and know where in the car I can find this information, please feel free to say so in the comments section. So, the 2.4 liter is not available in an Elantra. You have to get a Sonata if you want the 2.4 liter. However, only the SE trim will have the 2.4 liter. The higher trims will have a turbocharged 2 liter. I do not want turbo engines. Naturally aspirated is simple, less stuff to break, and lasts longer. Speaking of simple and easy to service, you know, I'm led to believe that this engine compartment was designed for a V6, and Hyundai just chose not to utilize that ability for this generation. But I mean, look at the space all around. I mean, look how ginormous this engine mount is and how easy it is to get to. Or look at all the space between the engine and the firewall. And that's no small thing to me because the warranty will eventually expire on this car, and I'll be able to better fix this car myself and help me have it for a very long time because, as for the reasons I've mentioned, I really don't want to have to buy another car. I don't want to buy a car again for a good while. Yeah, you know what? If you look at the underside of this hood, there's no clear coat. You can definitely see the orange they added to the red. And when you add red and orange, or orange to red rather, that does give you scarlet red. That is the definition of scarlet red. You see the strut tower here that's under a bit of a shadow. I don't know if the camera's going to pick it up too well. You see a bit of a brownish hue to that. Now, when you're trying to get burgundy, you usually add brown to red. And this all makes sense now because it's ruby red in the sun, but if you go to the shadowed side of the car here, yeah, this is where it starts to look more burgundy. Now, how it goes from this to that, I'm led to believe that they actually add some kind of coloring into the clear coat itself, but I could be wrong. And I don't know if there's any auto paint experts who might be watching this. Feel free to let me know otherwise in the comments. So, that's all I really have to show here for the engine and the engine compartment. So now we mosey on over into the interior in a Mosley kind of way. Yeah, that's the chime to let me know I left my keys in the ignition. And if you look inside, we'll quickly go through the back door as well. Basic cloth interior. Not much to see here. That's fine. I prefer cloth interiors. I am not very partial to vinyl and leather. And as I have a seat here, see, simple gauges. Stereo's nice, but it's fairly simple. It's a little more higher end. It's got my Bluetooth. Nice screen for a backup camera. And that's pretty much all I need. You know, anything higher end, it was just going to have stuff I was not going to need or want. And if this mirror looks familiar, well, it ought to. Because this is the dash cam mirror out of my Toyota. Once I knew my Toyota was going down, I had it taken out. And I'm glad I did, because now I got a dash cam for nothing. Because I refuse to drive in the city without a dash cam. And one of the last things I want to show about the interior, and why I like the SE so much, you see this? Look at that. An actual shifter. And thinking, oh, but it must have those stupid push button handbrakes. No, it doesn't have a handbrake because, check it out. No electronics in the emergency brake either. It is an actual brake, which I like, because there are some vehicles now that both the shifter and the brake are electronic. I do not groove on that, and I will simply not buy a car because of that. And I'm surprised that there isn't some kind of government mandate that keeps both of them from being electronic. One of them has to be solid, you know? All the things in a car that the government likes to stick its head in, that would have been a regulation that would make sense. But that's the government for you. So that's all there is to show here on the interior. The last thing to show is the trunk, and well, it's a trunk. Not much to see, but I'm really glad I got the Sonata on this one. It was a very big trunk. In fact, on Christmas Day, I had to take my grandmother back to the city. We were able to fit all her stuff in here but 2 items. And the 2 items that she had to ride with in the back seat, she still had so much space. So, this is incredible. This is what I think. Is this an access panel? Why, yes it is. Yeah, I need 2 hands to get that panel back on correctly, but I will put that panel on correctly off camera. So, that's all there really is to show here. Hyundai Sonata SE. So, that was the tour of the frickin' Hyundai, and I showed a few things that made me want this particular car with that particular trim level. Now, I would like to talk about what caused me to pull the trigger on the purchase of this car. I like driving my Ram. It gets good gas mileage for what it is. You can actually get 19 mpg on the highway if you really feather it. So the gas was not really the issue here. Mind you, the better gas mileage of the Sonata will be liked and appreciated, but that is more of a secondary reason to me. I have in the past talked about why I am more of a truck person, so I won't spend time reiterating here. The problem was more to do with the physical size of the truck and the fact that I couldn't find parking when I needed to, and the trouble it was causing me. This problem was kind of under the rug for the last 7 months because I was a resident worker at a job site on 120th Street, Manhattan, that did not have a parking garage, but spots you paid for in the street. Ended up being only $9 a day. Not a bad deal. The job was also right next to the West Side Highway and had little train options. The only trouble I would have parking-wise at the job was every once in a blue moon, I got a parking ticket due to the bumper overhanging into the no parking zone by 3 or so inches. I kid you not. But that was about the extent of it, no pun intended. The bottom line is, I was able to get away with daily driving the Ram into the city with no problem. That all changed, however, when the company I worked for lost that job. It was what happened to me on December 17, 2019, Tuesday. That was the straw that broke my back. I had my final exam for a course I was taking in Union School in Long Island City. On the days that I have to go to Long Island City, I get up extra early and I actually drive to and park in Long Island City so that when I have Union School after work, I can just use the subways to bypass the traffic that has the potential to make me late that I would otherwise run into trying to get into Queens from Manhattan, especially with the job site I'm at now. So I have to get to Queens early so I can get parking, even if it's the pay spots, as those disappear quickly too. So on December 17, 2019, Tuesday, I was on my way to Long Island City via the Major Deegan when there was traffic. Well, turns out that a tractor trailer flipped over and made the Deegan a parking lot. I was able to put the truck in park and shut the engine off. It wouldn't be to another 3 hours before the NYPD just started to direct traffic to swing around at the exit and start going northbound. I knew I was definitely not finding parking in Queens because of the time of day it was at that point. Not to mention the trouble would be to try to get into Queens at that point. But you see, the job I'm at now has garages that could take my truck, but it's just one of very few, and there was too much possibility that there would not be any space left for my truck as I was stuck in traffic so long, and it was going to be too late in the day. Remember, I was still stuck in the Bronx. This is on top of the fact that I was being sent northbound. So it would have been a lot of trouble at that point in time to have to go so far north to try to go south again. It probably would have been at least 11 o'clock, even noon, by the time I first get into the city. So I just went home at that point, so I already lost a day's pay. Not too happy about that. But wait, it doesn't end there. So I was back home and I figured I'll get in some extra studying before the exam, and I'll take Metro North. I could just drive to the station as I usually do when I took the train to the city. Now, trying to park a full-size truck at the train station I use, it's not terrible, but it's not great either. It is a bigger problem, though, when the snow is on the ground at the station. So I arrive at the station. There's a spot near the entrance, but the snow caused the cars parked on either side of it to not park properly and make the space impossible for my truck. So I go a little bit down the lot. I find a spot. Actually, two spots back to back. And there's numbers there, so I know it's a spot. It was only after I got out of my truck that I saw a sign that said that those particular spots are used as a pass-through for the snow plows, and those spots actually turn into a tow-away zone when there's snow. There was a little snow, but you know what? I wasn't sure if there were going to be a-holes about it like the city, so I just wasn't going to take that chance. So I had to hop back in my truck, go back to spots that are even further down the lot. Because of all this, I missed the train I wanted to catch. But not to worry, I wasn't late for my exam, but I did want to get to Long Island City extra early so I could ask my instructor a few questions before the exam. So as one might gather, I was not too happy about that. I didn't dare try to go to any stations further down the line because there's risk I could run into traffic trying to get into those stations. The weather was pretty nasty that day, and many of those other stations have limited outdoor parking too, which could very well be pitched off due to the snow on the ground. So I wasn't taking that chance. I felt the safest thing to do at that point was just wait almost an hour for the next train. I guess it was good I didn't stop for that coffee. Worth noting that before I was on the job at 120th Street, I took the train into the city, and I would have this problem where I would miss the train and be late for work because I spent so much time struggling to find parking. It wasn't frequent, but it wasn't infrequent either. No, I don't like being inconvenienced, but I can handle and work around inconveniences. But as you can see here, this issue with the parking was going beyond being an inconvenience. This was messing up my stuff here. And in the case of December 17, 2019, Tuesday, my stuff got messed up twice in one day because of this problem. Combine it with the fact that I now know I am established and secure at my new job site, and there's some crazy things going on at that job, so let's just say there's money to be made there, and lots of it. Then combine that with the fact that the car was on a major blowout sale because of being both an outgoing model of the year and an outgoing generation. Yes, I bought another vehicle that's the last year of its style. This also caused me to make my move because one rule I still adhere to in buying new cars is to never buy the first year of any new generation, model, engine, or transmission, what have you. Bottom line is, 2020 is the start of the 8th generation Sonata. It will now come equipped with a 2.5-liter GDI managed by an 8-speed automatic versus the 6-speed I have now. At least the engine and transmission I have is established and already has the kinks worked out. So now you have a better understanding of what gave me the final push to do this and why the frickin' 2019 Hyundai Sonata SE is on my driveway. Well, that's all I really have to say for now. The one thing I want to point out is that I went with a mid-sized car because it is more stout and will hold up better to my way of living. The reason I didn't get an accent was because it is just too small for my needs, and sure, it'll get better gas mileage, but it's not as stout and is likely to break more often. One of my ongoing problems and experiences that I've had with 4 cylinders is that any money I save in gas goes to repairs. That is why for the longest time I've just been driving my truck. Hopefully by getting the Sonata I broke this cycle. That 2.4 GDI is an impressive engine. Sure, I won't be getting the gas mileage of an accent, but hey, it'll beat the crap out of the mileage I'm getting with the Ram here. As it is, this mid-sized car is getting the gas mileage that just 10 or so years ago you would have to get a compact car for. But at the same time, makes the power that 10 to 15 years ago you would have needed at least a 3-liter V6 for. With no pun intended, I think this car will be a nice happy medium. Hopefully this is the car I've been looking for. And by that, I mean it can make me the promise that if I take care of it, it'll take care of me and get the job done. I've only been able to say that about my Ram so far. But if only there was a vehicle that I could say that about that would be a bit easier to park and a bit better with gas. I'm hoping this car is the one because, like I said, I really do not want to buy another car for a very long time. I have a life I'm trying to get on with already. I did not want to buy this car. I hope it does a good job so I don't have to take out my truck as much anymore and it can go back to being my weekend vehicle and my occasional hauler where needed. And on that note, based on the service records and the odometer looking up around the time the Toyota failed me, I can safely say that had the Toyota not screwed me, that poor truck by now would only have about maybe 25,000 miles on it, if that. I can easily go on some more, but I won't. So I just want to one last time say, thank you Toyota for a bad job not well done. Thank you Toyota for screwing me and making me have to re-enter the misery of debt because, like your GM competitor, a simple, reliable car was too much to ask for. Well, that's all, folks. Thanks for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. Hopefully you enjoyed my new car. And have a safe and happy new year.